There is a moment that does not announce itself with any particular drama. It does not arrive with a sign or a clear boundary or anyone telling you that something has changed. It comes quietly, sometimes in the middle of an ordinary afternoon, sometimes in the silence after a long period of difficulty has finally passed, sometimes in the middle of a conversation where you suddenly hear yourself speaking differently about your own life than you used to. And what happens in that moment is not a change in your circumstances. It is a change in your relationship to your own story. Something internal rearranges. And when you pay attention to what rearranged, you begin to realize that the person you have been up until now was never the finished version. That everything you have lived through was not the story itself, but the preparation for the person who could finally carry one. That moment is where you are standing right now. And I want to talk carefully about what that actually means, because I think most people either miss it or misread it when it arrives. Most people move through their lives in a specific posture that they rarely examine. Things happen to them. Plans fall apart or come together. People arrive and leave. Opportunities open for a moment and then close. Circumstances shift in ways that were not predicted. And through all of it, the person at the center of this activity is mostly in a reactive position, trying to navigate what arrives, trying to recover from what went wrong, trying to hold on to what is working, trying to survive the seasons that are hard and extract whatever good they can from the seasons that are easier. This is not a critique. This is an honest description of what it looks like to be inside a season of formation that has not yet completed itself. And formation is real and necessary, and it takes the time it takes. But formation is not the destination. It is the preparation. It is what has to happen before something else becomes possible. And the thing it is preparing you for is a fundamentally different relationship to your own life. One in which you are no longer primarily the object of what is happening, but the source of what happens next. Most people, if they are honest with themselves about how they have been relating to their own lives, will recognize the reactive posture. They have been the person things happen to rather than the person who decides what happens. They have been managing the plot that circumstances were running rather than generating a plot of their own. They have been shaped by the story rather than shaping it. And this is fine, because everyone starts here. But this is not where the story actually lives. The story lives in what becomes possible when the formation reaches a certain completeness and the posture begins to shift. That shift is what is beginning to happen. And the first sign of it is almost always a change in the questions you find yourself asking. During the years when you were in the reactive posture, the questions you were asking were survival questions. How do I get through this? How do I recover from what happened? How do I manage this situation that I did not ask for and do not fully understand? How do I make the best of what is available when what is available is not what I hoped for? These questions are legitimate. They are honest. They deserve real answers. But they are the questions of someone whose agency is subordinate to the circumstances they are responding to. They are the questions of someone who is being shaped rather than shaping. When the shift begins, different questions start to arise. They do not replace the survival questions all at once. They appear alongside them at first, tentatively, almost as if they are not sure they are allowed to be there. But they are unmistakable once you notice them. What do I actually want to create from here? What kind of life would I build if I were the one deciding what the structure looked like? What choices would I make if I stopped waiting for conditions to improve and simply began from exactly where I am? What does the version of my life look like that I would actually choose rather than simply accept? These are not the same questions. They come from a different place in you. They come from a part of you that has stopped asking permission to exist and has started asking instead what it wants to do with the existence it already has. And if you are finding these questions arising in you with more regularity and more insistence than they used to, that is the signal. It is not a coincidence. It is evidence that something in your formation has reached sufficient completeness that the story can now actually begin. I want to be direct about something that I think often gets obscured in conversations about new beginnings, which is the question of timing. Why now? Why not earlier? Why did the preparation take as long as it took? The story can only begin when the protagonist is prepared to carry it. This is not a figure of speech. A protagonist who is not yet prepared cannot drive a real plot. They can be present in events, they can be acted upon by circumstances, they can develop through what happens to them. But they cannot author a story because they do not yet have what authoring requires. And what authoring requires is specific. It requires enough experience to know what you are actually working with rather than what you imagined you were working with. It requires enough capacity to hold the complexity of a real story rather than collapsing under it. It requires enough clarity about what you actually want to be able to move toward it with intention rather than drifting between possibilities and hoping one of them sticks. It requires enough resilience to survive the setbacks that any real story inevitably involves, because a real story does involve setbacks. The difference is that in the story you are the one who decides what the setbacks mean and what you do in response to them rather than simply being undone by them. There is a feeling that comes with standing at the genuine beginning of something real, and I want to describe it accurately because if you are feeling it, I do not want you to misread it. It is not purely excitement. There is excitement in it, but there is also a strange weight, a kind of vertigo that comes from the specific recognition that the choices you make from here carry consequence in a way that feels different from before. During the formation years, the events were shaping you. The story was being run by circumstances, and you were moving through it the best you could. Now the choices you make are shaping the actual arc of your actual life going forward. That is a different weight to carry, and feeling that weight does not mean something is wrong. It means you are accurately perceiving what it means to be the author rather than the subject. The vertigo does not pass before you begin. It passes because you begin. This is important. Waiting for the discomfort of standing at a real beginning to resolve itself before you take action is the one posture guaranteed to keep you exactly where you are. The feeling does not resolve in anticipation. It resolves in movement. The groundedness that comes from actually inhabiting your own agency and using it to make real choices in the direction of the life you want to build. That groundedness is only available on the other side of acting. It cannot be accessed any other way. So notice the vertigo if it is there. Let it be real. Do not try to think your way past it or wait for it to disappear on its own. And then act anyway, from the position of the person you have actually become. Make the choice that belongs to someone who is writing their life rather than surviving it. Take the step that moves the story forward rather than waiting for the story to move you. The vertigo dissolves into the groundedness of actually being who you are. But you have to move first. Your story is not something that happened to you during the years you can now look back on with whatever mixture of gratitude and grief and wonder you hold them with. What happened during those years was preparation. Real preparation that cost something real, that produced something real. And now the preparation is complete enough. Not perfect, it never arrives perfect, but complete enough that the thing it was preparing for can actually begin. The story starts now. It starts with you in the position of the one who decides what happens next, not the one waiting to find out. It starts with everything you have been through available to you as resource and equipment rather than as weight you are trying to put down. It starts with the questions of someone who is authoring their life beginning to replace the questions of someone who was surviving it. What do you want to build? What direction would you choose if you stopped waiting for permission? What is the first move of a person who has decided to show up fully for their own life rather than standing slightly to the side of it, watching and reacting? That first move is yours to make. The story is waiting for it, and you are the one who makes it. Not the person you were 5 years ago, not the person you are afraid you might still be somewhere underneath everything, not some future version of yourself who will feel more ready than you feel right now. The person you actually are, right now, with everything you actually have, standing at the actual beginning of the story that has always been waiting for you to be ready to live it. That beginning is now. Take the first step. The story starts with you moving.